Welcome back to episode 25 of the Swider Show. Really excited this week. A lot has happened since the last time we've been on here. March Madness, a little Laker talk, and we're going to be welcome with a good friend of mine, Wenyen Gabriel, a New Englander as well. So excited for this episode, Patty.
Yeah, it'll be a big one. Like you said, giant week in basketball. The other thing you left out, South Bay Lakers clinching the playoffs, big time.
We did.
Congrats to the fellas. A lot of the Swider Show friends on the roster, as everyone knows. So, yeah, big week for them. Like you said, I feel like it's been 10 days since we're recording. We're recording this Thursday, March 23rd. We should also probably mention apologies for the delay to the listeners. I know they were saddened on their drive to work this morning on Thursday morning without the episode, but it'll be a nice lead off. It'll be a nice kickoff to your weekend.
We had a hectic week of trying to schedule people. So
yeah.
Apologies for that. When you're dealing with NBA players, their schedules get kind of hectic. So we're going to get one out this week. We're going to get one out next week on time, hopefully. And we'll just go from there, Patty.
Yeah, this won't break up the schedule too much here. This has happened before on the show. I think the only other time we did Friday was with Austin Reaves, which is very relevant. He's in the news now because he's, I don't know, maybe the best player in the NBA. Now we got Wenyen on, giant guest. So, yeah, it's not like we're, just delaying it because we're being lazy or anything. Swider's trying to book these guys, and it's paying off because, Wenyen's a vital piece on the Lakers as they make this playoff push. So,
not for sure, man. Talk about Austin. What a story, huh? Just a two-way guy gets converted into a contract, has a good year last year, and then this year he's obviously just taking another step. Patty, I was just looking around on Sports Reference like I usually do, and
best website in the world.
Yeah, unbelievable website. You put it in our Google Docs every single week of the guy's stats and everything like that.
Of course.
But I'm just thinking to myself, like, I haven't really checked Austin's stats in a while. Let me just go and check. And I see he's averaging 12 points a game. I'm like, I was thinking he was averaging like 7, 8.
Right.
You know what I mean? 9 maybe. And in these past 3 weeks, he's been on a complete tear.
The other thing is the efficiency numbers are just off the charts. He's shooting like 52% of the field, 39 from 3, 88 from the line. I think I just did that off of memory. I'm such a loser. Great. I think I just had that off of memory, but that's what I do for our guests. But yeah, he's just he's so confident too, the way he's playing right now. And it's the bigger the games get, it seems like the more he's delivering, he's getting up for him.
Patty, you being a small white guard, what's the most impressive part of his game to you?
I don't know how to say this, but I don't think he really represents many white guards, if that makes sense. He's a very athletic guy. He has a very quick first step, but what's hot in the streets right now, what's getting people kind of riled up and why people are starting to flip, also was that lovable guy, great story, like you said. Now when he's like killing these teams, you could see a little bit more hate coming out on social media, on Twitter, Swider. A lot of people getting real pissed off about his foul calls. Like last night, shoots 13 free throws. 2 nights ago, or whatever, 3 or 4 nights ago, you guys play Orlando. He has 35. He shoots 18 free throws at the line. He's like a 36-year-old veteran at foul drawing at this point. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, he's great. He's great. It might just be Swider Show guests, but him and Scotty are 2 of the best I've ever seen being able to draw fouls. Like, they get into the lane, they know if they get stuck in a certain spot, or if Austin gets those guys on his back, like, he's like, all right, I'm just gonna go backwards and get a foul. And that's like Coach Bayham used to say this all the time. We've talked about this before on the podcast, but he was like, what made Chris Mullin so good was in the Big East is that he would have 26 points, but only take 10 shots and shoot 14 or 16 free throws. Go 6 for 10 from the field, shoot 14 or 16 free throws, and end up with 26. And then you lose the game. Your best player is fouled out. So it's like they're able to impact the game so much more, being able to draw those fouls on. And they honestly keep the best players off them, or maybe the best defenders off them, because they can.
Yeah, because you're fouling them out. Yeah. Why do you think it is that you see that more in the NBA than college? I feel like we talk about this every week, kind of comparing the two, but there's not many double-digit free throw games in the college level.
Yeah, well, I think that the players are just smarter.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think, like, when you go throughout a game and you have, Chris Paul is probably the best that there ever is. Like, we were doing our pregame scout yesterday for the Suns. Big win by the Lakers last night against the Suns. But one of the things in the scouting report was like, if it gets into the bonus, watch out for the Chris Paul sweep through
because he knows.
Because he knows. And LeBron goes, we should all know this by now, guys. We played him 3 times. Like this guy is like, we should all know this. And that we have 3 guys on our team who do the same thing. D'Lo, Schroeder, and Austin. You guys all do the same thing. So do not fall for that. Like we don't have any rookies playing. Like, don't fall for that. So
yeah,
I just think that the players are so much smarter. They're able to manipulate the rules, and then every single year they have to change the rules based on how the players are manipulating them. Right? Like James Harden, like became such a master at manipulating the rules that they had to literally change the rules on foul calls because
he got to a point
16 free throws a game.
He got to a point in Houston where he could dribble the ball up the court and be like, all right, I kind of want 2 free throws on this possession. And there was like an 100% chance he was going to somehow get fouled.
He could tell like the momentum shift of the game and just get fouled and be like, all right, yeah, let me sink these 2. Let me get my rhythm going. Like it was Dame Lillard is another good one. I mean, there's all these guys, like all the best scorers of all time period are able to get to the free throw line. LeBron barely gets fouled.
Right.
That's
him and
impressive.
Steph, funny enough, are 2 of the guys that don't like their free throw rate isn't necessarily as high as you would expect because people say like superstar calls, and they've been the 2 biggest superstars for a decade. And I don't know, you don't really see them getting up there. But why do you think people get so mad at the players rather than at the refs? You know what I mean? Because from my standpoint, people are like, oh my God, Trae Young, Harden in his day. People are starting to say it about Reeves, like I'm saying. Embiid gets a lot of hate for it. They're like, oh, he just foul baiting every time. Well, like if the refs are going to call it, then why aren't you going to try and do it? You know what I mean? It's not the most like entertaining, like visually pleasing product, but I mean they're still putting up like 35 a game.
So every single year at the beginning of the year, we have a refs meeting, right? So like I did one for the G League, the NBA. Yeah, I was there for the summer.
Really? Wow.
And they go over all the rules that they're trying to implement for that season. They're going all over these things. So during this meeting, LeBron brings up like 15 points to the refs about how this is going to affect the game, how this is going to get called, how this is going to affect him compared to certain players and everything like that. So this year they implemented the take foul. Right. So, but there's a rule in the take foul that the reason why I'm bringing this up is that people are so smart that they think about these things and they're able to manipulate the game
during the game.
Bron's thinking about, all right, we're playing against CP3 in the playoffs. We're playing against Trae Young. We're playing against all these different guys. They're going to manipulate the game in this sort of way, right? And when you play against smart players, you have to think 2 steps ahead of them. So questioning everything that's going on in this meeting. I'm sitting right next to him. So one of the things is the take foul. But if you go for the ball on the break, then that's not considered a take foul. So LeBron's first question is, if I'm dribbling the ball up the court and someone goes across my body to try and steal the ball, and technically you're going for the ball, and then that creates a collision. Next thing you know, I'm down, and all these other guys are getting injured because a guy like Pat Beverly, who's smart, is going to go for the ball in the break. Like that's going to affect the game. So he's asking this like real life time. So it's like the reason, like I said, like I'm bringing this up because it's like LeBron's thinking 3 steps ahead of the refs, saying, "Oh, they're just going to go for the ball." No, there's going to be a collision that happens. A guy like LeBron's going to be out because someone wants to take him out, and this is their chance. Oh, I'm going for the ball. No, you're not going for the ball. You're trying to take advantage of the rule that's taking place. So I think the NBA has such smart players, like literally like a guy like Chris Paul who's 36. Like he's seen every situation, right? And every single year he's trying to take advantage of the rules, and he's telling his teammates like, "Hey, like Booker last night, every single time he gets hit, like just
throws his head back,
throws his head back." Even Luka last night, he didn't even get touched. He throws his head back like he freaking should have got a foul call. Then he's arguing the call. So it's just the nature of our game. It's all out of competitive spirit, and I think Austin does a great job of getting those calls,
He's a big time come off the screen, and then you kind of like throw your weight back into the guy that's guarding you. It's definitely not a foul, but they always call it. So I mean,
it's like as a defender, like what are you supposed to do?
Exactly.
Like how do you even contest a shot? Because we always talk about rear view contest in basketball. A rear view contest can mess up a shooter. So you're coming to rear view contest, you can't even rear view contest because he's just throwing his body back into you.
For the listeners, a rear view contest I'm gonna guess what that is. I think it's like a rear view mirror, basically.
I
Like
mean, you're just trying to,
you're putting your hand over the top of their head. No,
or you're just affecting them from the. It's
from
gonna
the
sound weird,
side.
but from the side or behind, right? Like just like
Okay, I
trying
saved you
to
there. Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, man, it's a term that we talk about all the time, and just try and get a rear view contest.
yeah. But I mean, shout out to Austin. He's absolutely killing it. So
Killing it.
unbelievable.
Nice little pod talk right there about fouls
Oh,
in the
big
NBA.
time, big time. We also got out at. We're gonna do it. It's Copycat League this week because we had a good one. Swider actually sent it to me. It's including my maybe my favorite person in the entire earth, Damian Lillard. But
Yep.
first, Swider, we have a stat of the week. We're bringing back all the segments.
Let's do it. Let's have a day.
Stat of the week, Swider. Are you aware where you rank in 3-point field goal percentage and 3-point makes in the G League?
Well, I'm just gonna make a comment. I didn't play for
Yeah,
probably about seven or eight games for the 3-point makes category. So I would say probably around
that's a
eighth or
caveat.
ninth.
Okay, well, that makes it real awkward because you're 11th.
Okay.
You're 11th in both, but
Wow.
top 3 in each. You are by at least 5 in both categories. You've played less games. So like you've played 26 games.
Yep.
Everyone else has played about 33, 35-ish. So yeah, congrats. That's our stat of the week.
Thanks.
Sorry,
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
that really hurt the emphasis there that you guessed higher. I thought you were gonna say like lower.
Well, I just didn't know because I played a lot less games than these guys. So
Yeah, that's what I mean.
yeah.
But all right, that's good stuff. Anyway, Swider, March Madness recap. Your main takeaways. We just went on a rant about comparing the refs, the foul baiting in college versus the NBA. But the actual basketball, how much were you able to watch? Your key takeaways. We'll get into the darlings here, but yeah, what'd you think of the first weekend?
I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about how magical of a March Madness weekend that was. I was able to catch a good amount, but I was constantly updated throughout the tournament because of a group message that I'm in with Jimmy Boeheim and Patty Casey. So I was very thankful for them for keeping me in the loop about every single thing that was going on.
Because for the listener, I was staring 2 inches from my phone for 4 days in a row. So every time Jimmy sent the text, it seemed like Jimmy was on the same wavelength because every time we sent a text back and forth, I wasn't even getting the notification. It was like I was already looking at the group and it would just populate another bubble from Jimmy Boeheim. But
the commentary.
You were going like at least 100 texts in between. So how many conservatively texts do you think there was fired off back and forth?
Conservatively, I would say at least 900 to 1,000.
I was gonna say a grand. I put a stack
to
on
1,000 texts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just high level, big brain
high
basketball.
level commentary.
Yep.
High level commentary.
Yeah, I mean, I guess FDU is probably the story of the tournament still, wouldn't you say?
I mean, Princeton making it to the Sweet 16 is
it's kind of flying under the radar.
But I also think like we've seen so many 15 seeds in the past 3 years get to the Sweet 16. I'm kind of getting numb to it a little bit.
Yeah, what's it? This is 3 years in a row, right? Oral Roberts,
yeah,
Peters, and then Princeton. Yeah, how
and
about
also like?
Go ahead.
And also like Princeton is like they're really good.
Yeah, they're not like an underdog. They beat the absolute shit out of Missouri.
Like I thought they were going to beat Missouri just the way they play. I don't think they have a great chance against Creighton because I think Creighton thinks the game as well as being able to play the game. They play in the Big East where it's so heavily scouted. Like I thought they had a chance to beat Baylor though. I thought if Baylor got to that next game, I thought Princeton had a chance to beat them.
Yeah,
just because
it would definitely be more like contrasting styles.
Yeah. But I think they're going to really struggle against Creighton. But them making the Sweet 16 is obviously magical. St. Peter's making it to the Elite Eight, that was magical. And then Purdue losing again to a double-digit seed for the third year straight. It's just crazy.
It's the other thing with Princeton too is like one of the magical parts of someone making a run, like whether it's Florida Gulf Coast, Oral Roberts, St. Peter's last year.
Yeah,
you'll love consuming all the stories about like, oh, this is this small school from here, and they show you the pictures of the St. Peter's locker room, and their gym was flooded halfway through the year, and they only have one side of bleachers. It's like, all right, Princeton wins. Yeah, I know where Princeton is. You know what I mean?
Like
Like they have,
all these guys
like,
are gonna be fine too. Like these guys are
yeah,
gonna be in Wall Street in a couple of years.
they have a 200 billion, $1,000 trillion endowment.
Yeah, all of those things.
Yep, 200 billion, $1,000 trillion, bang.
Yep.
But yeah, it doesn't take away because it's just as like impressive that they're doing it, but it's not quite as Cinderella-y, if that makes sense.
I totally agree. They're a really good team. I mean, they're constantly the top of the Ivy. They 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 probably shouldn't have got seeded a 15 seed, but it's like where do you put a team like Princeton? They weren't even the Yale was the best team in the Ivy League in terms of record wise, and then Princeton
They
got the
beat them.
bid. They obviously they beat them in the Ivy tournament, and like teams like that. I mean, we play Cornell every year at Syracuse. We play Penn every year at Villanova. I lost to Penn when I was at Nova.
Yeah.
And we were a much more talented team, but the way they play, their offense, their style of play, it's a difficult matchup, and it's tough for teams to prepare for those guys. And literally, what you have 3 days to prepare.
Yeah, the last couple of years, Ivy's inching more towards like A10 territory than it is like the bottom of D1, in my opinion.
I agree.
But
I agree. I think Jimmy will tell you there's good players in the Ivy League, but
yeah, they could play anywhere.
Yeah, they could play anywhere. But it's just like it's funny, like these guys aren't going to transfer because of how good the school is. So you're playing against juniors and seniors who have been through the mud, who have played against older guys. It's not the normal college basketball where guys are leaving after 1 or 2 years of transferring to different levels.
Here's a question that I was pondering by myself, thinking about this Purdue loss.
Yeah.
So at face value, right? You're a 1 seed, you lose to a 16 seed. It's the second time it's ever happened. People are freaking out. They're clowning them because FDU is the smallest team of the tournament. Yada, yada, yada. This is, I mean, by the time this comes out, it'll be a week after the game happens. So you've heard all the commentary about it. It's a take I haven't heard that I think might be my take. I don't know if I actually firmly believe this or I'm just saying it to be different. I actually think the St. Peter's loss was worse than this loss.
Yeah, that's a take. That's a take. I do think that when St. Peter's beats them in the Sweet 16,
it's so different.
It's so different than losing in the first round. When the first round, it's like you didn't really get to prepare for the team. You didn't know how good they were. You might have been sleeping on them a little bit. You're
exactly.
One
they're sneaking up on
seed. You. Yeah, but with St. Peter's, like in the Sweet 16, you should be ready for that game.
Yeah. The other thing is the knock on Purdue all year is like their guards are not great. Edie's enormous, but I mean, like as I've said,
Patty, what's your quote? What's your quote? What's your statement?
Guard play wins in March.
Wow.
And that kind of proved to be true in that game. You know what I mean? Like Purdue was a 1 seed, but I think anyone, even Purdue fans, would tell you they overachieved all year. And the team last year had way more national championship aspirations. You know what I mean? You got Jaden Ivey.
Yeah.
You got Trayvon Williams. And then, like I said, St. Peter's not sneaking up on you in the Sweet 16. You know what I mean? All eyes on you. And then you lose that game. I don't know. Both are pretty bad, pretty tragic. I feel bad for their fans. I feel bad for the kids, honestly. But
the St. Peter's loss to me, they were obviously hot. I think that's really unacceptable about the Fairleigh Dickinson loss is that, like, if you've seen the Ken Palm stats behind the Fairleigh Dickinson team, they're like 300 in defense, 300 in points, let up in the paint. Like, I just.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a giant moment
don't get how
for
you
me
can lose that game
as a D2 guy because it was essentially a D2 team. 3 of their kids
St. Thomas Aquinas
were transfers from St. Thomas Aquinas. I did play them 3 times. We did get blown out 3 times.
Did you play against Tobin Anderson?
Yeah.
Wow.
Great coach. He like ran that region for so long. It's kind of ridiculous. I don't know if you saw the Woj text that he put out, but it's kind of ridiculous it took him that long to get a Division I job. He had a few guys when he was there that were like All-Americans. This kid that I played, Reyes, was like drafted in the G League from D2.
Wow.
So very, very good program. I played number 2, the kid that was just getting busy. Demetrius Roberts.
Yeah.
I don't know if his first name's Demetrius. Something Roberts, but
yep.
Yeah, I looked up my stats. When I was a sophomore, I had 12 points against them. 7 turnovers in the first half. So they did run the same press. I had the same struggles as the Purdue kids. So I relate to it on that level. But, yeah, I mean, you can't lose that game if you're Purdue. You can lose it if you do sciences. You brush that off, move on to the next one. But when you're 1 seed Purdue Boilermakers. It's pretty tough.
Patty, I have a question for you, right? So Tobin Anderson took the Fairleigh Dickinson job on May 3rd, 2022. And then he leaves for the Iona job March 21st of 2023. But all we hear all year round from all these Twitter heads and people talking about college basketball is the transfer portal is terrible.
Oh,
and
this is a good point.
These kids get to leave all the time. What is your opinion on? And I think Tobin Anderson did a great job. I think he deserves the Iona job. And someone did predict that maybe he'd be in the running for the Iona job, but I'll let you tell that story.
I didn't hear that anywhere, actually.
Yeah.
That blindsided me that he got the Iona job.
Yeah. So, Patty, what's your opinion on that?
No, but before I get to my opinion, I will give you credit there, because in that aforementioned group message with Jimmy Boeheim, one of I'd say Swider sent about 5% of the text throughout the week, but one of them was predicting that we're talking about the potential of Pitino going elsewhere after Iona had lost, and Swider said, "I bet the FDU guy gets the Iona job." Me and Jimmy kind of brushed off. We're like, "All right, Swider, whatever, man. He's been there for 10 months. Maybe he'll get a job. I don't know." But yeah, you did predict that. It did come to fruition a couple days later, which we should also mention. Patino being back is awesome.
Oh, unbelievable.
It's very deserved. Also, shout out Dan Fitz, manager last year. He's going with them to St. John's. That's big time. But as far as the question you asked, it is insane how it's just like funny to watch on Twitter how the tune changes with coaches. Because like you're saying, it's essentially the same thing. You're making a decision for yourself, which is basically like, I have no problem with Coach Anderson doing that, but like, you can't just then flip and be like, "Oh, well, these kids are transferred too much," which we got into all last week. But the thing with like this guy was in Division II 12 months ago. You know what I mean? Like, his lifelong dream. The reason you get into coaching is to get to the highest level that you can in college. The other thing is, if you wait around too long, you like, this opportunity might never come again. Like, you talk about guys who like go on a run, they're a player in the NCAA tournament. It's like, oh, their name's hot, he probably should leave for the draft now because his stock is never going to be higher. FDU, if you asked them 3 weeks ago, like, think about this: if Merrimack was eligible, Tobin Anderson is at FDU for how many more years? You know what I mean?
And then the job.
Yeah, 2 more years from now, like, FDU goes 7-22. It's like, you might lose the FDU job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, these guys, you have to just capitalize on these March rounds, because if you're like, oh well, he was only been there for 10 months, he should probably be loyal to those kids and stick around. Like, yeah, it sounds good. In a perfect world, you would do that, but if you wait around, you might just miss your opportunity. And you're like, fuck, now I'm stuck. I'm stuck at this level. And obviously, the reason why you're getting into it is try to like move up as much as you can. But sorry, that was pretty long-winded, but
no, I agree. I think you always got to capitalize on your time. As a Division I coach, as a basketball player, like, especially now with the NIL, right? Like, you could have a great year at Fairleigh Dickinson as a player or a coach, and then that next year you could be making
yeah, exactly,
$100,000 as a player, or I don't know how much Tobin Anderson is getting paid at Iona, but he's definitely
way more than a FDU. Like, he was talking, I saw an interview with him before that playing game that they played at Dayton.
Yeah,
and he was saying, like, he was like, I thought being a Division I coach would be awesome. Like, I don't know, you think of it as more of a luxurious job. And he was like, obviously, I'm thankful to be a Division I head coach, but I actually have to do more work here than I did last year, because like, he was like, I have to do the laundry here. Like, we don't have many managers. Like, our facilities aren't as good and stuff like that. Like, people don't factor that in. So you go to somewhere like Iona, it's just a complete step up.
Yeah, definitely.
Copycat. We need a noise for the segment. We also need a sponsor. I say that every single week, so we're taking sponsors for that. But some great hoops talk. More to come here, and it's a Copycat League, big time segment. Swire, you actually called this one out. I think it was over a week ago at this point. But it was a clip on Twitter from a podcast who shall not be named because it's a direct competitor, but it was of my favorite player for a decade now, Damian Lillard. The long and short of it, whenever Dame is in the news, people are just talking about how we should leave Portland. Do you want to leave Portland? He gets like, I don't know, 3,000 questions about it a week. And basically, the cliff notes of it is he's just saying, like, I'm fulfilled. I have a life outside of basketball. People always ask me this. They think I'm bashing super teams. I've stayed in Portland. I love Portland. And he's basically just saying he doesn't need to win a ring to feel fulfilled in his NBA career. But in his bigger point, he starts talking about how the NBA now, the culture around it, the mindset towards success in the NBA is kind of toxic. So I don't know, Swider, you sent me the clip. What were your main takeaways from that topic?
Well, one I would say, as a reporter, as a person who does media for, I mean, I'm not in the media, but as a person
Oh, sure
who,
we are.
I
New
guess, I
media.
guess we're former media, yeah. But for a person that has like Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman and whoever Stephen A. is reporting against, right?
Yeah.
Or even like a Nick Wright or some of these shows in the morning, Shannon Sharp, Skip Bayless. I do respect the journalistic approach of having to appease the crowd, of having to start conversations. They literally are on TV every single day, so they have to start these conversations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what is the number one argument for Michael Jordan being the greatest player of all time? 6 for 6 in the finals. So when comparing players in this era to other players, they're always going to use that argument. So has that turned into? It's turned into the ring culture. It's turned into you're not validated until you win a ring. But to Dame's point, what is success, right? Because he talks about the idea of pressure, how he doesn't really face real life pressure. People who are facing pressure are the people who are struggling to put a meal on the table for their
Yeah.
families and all the things like that. So my takeaway is we've kind of lost the idea of what success really is, right? And Dame's accomplishments are minimized, or the way that he's perceived are minimized because of the ring culture and the society that we've kind of created through this ring culture. Like, people get mad at KD for leaving, but what do you have left if the idea behind rings and all these things and the way the media was talking was
Different? Yeah.
was different? Yeah. So I just think it's a more complex issue, which is the way our society's going, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I respect the journalistic integrity of all these guys and what they have to do, and they have to create content every single day. That's not easy. But I think our idea of success is being skewed by the fact of, if you don't win a championship, then you're looked down upon. Like, Charles Barkley didn't have a good NBA career because he didn't win a championship. Like, some of these guys who have legendary careers, who've changed millions of people's lives, who've created fans and this legacy, and their careers aren't looked at the same as a guy who has one championship or two championships, which is, then people get mad at KD. So you can't really win at the end of the
Yeah.
day anyways.
Yeah.
So
Dame, he's also the self-awareness that he has about all these topics, and basically just when he speaks on his career as a whole and how he's viewed by other people, it seems like he's very tuned into it, but it just actually doesn't bother him, which so many athletes say, but you could tell with him it's very genuine. Because my
yeah,
favorite part of the clip is like, he's like, I go home, hang out with my cousin. My best friend comes out. He stays here for a couple weeks. Like, I talk to my grandma on the phone, like all that type of stuff. And he's like, I'm just a normal guy. And at the end of the day, I also saw Spencer Dinwiddie had a similar quote. So it really
yeah,
is a copycat league. It's hot in the streets right now.
it
But
is.
he was saying, like, unless you're one of the, unless you're Jordan, unless you're Kobe, unless you're LeBron, like those upper echelon guys, once you're done, people just stop kind of talking about you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So if you're really that concerned about, like, if Dame were to just like demand a trade, and who knows, maybe down the road he goes somewhere else, but like if he were to demand a trade and force his way out and he goes somewhere and he wins a ring, his point is basically like, is that really going to be like my fulfillment just because the next day on First Take they're like, Dame got a ring, now he's good. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm still the same player, but I don't know. I feel bad for the guy because it's literally just all he's been talking about for 6, 7 years now. And he's repeatedly said, like, no, I'm good.
I think him and Bradley. I mean, I think Dame's obviously a much better player all time than Bradley Beal. But Bradley Beal's kind of done the same thing, right? Like, he's stayed in Washington, he's signed these big deals, and it's kind of minimized his opportunity to win a championship. But at the end of the day, like, he's an amazing player who has done amazing things and has kept Washington afloat. I mean, they're not gonna, like, neither team will make the playoffs this year probably, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They
Dame's like
both
officially out. I think the Wizards are as well. But
but like they've created this legacy and this and have created their own greatness and their own levels of success. So I don't know. I think we take lightly how hard it is to do on an every single night basis of what
Mhm.
these guys are doing, averaging 30 points a game and trying to bring young teams and teams that aren't ready to win to almost making the playoffs every single year. So it's tough. It's a part of our society and culture. And I mean, it's not going to change. So, I mean, there's really no point of like complaining about it, but we live in a rings culture, Patty.
Yeah, exactly. That clip also went viral, so this one better too.
Yeah,
That was the
exactly.
point of doing it. That's the point of the segment. But Swire, some great basketball, some great hoop talk to start the show today.
It's like peanut butter and jelly, the Swider Show and hoop talk.
Yeah, we got to. I don't know. One of these weeks, maybe we'll just go a solo week and just break down March Madness, break down all hoops, front
Yep.
to back. What was I going to say too? Oh, maybe a summer episode. We got to get one of those refs on that that you were talking about, being in the meeting with, break down all the rules because we seem to be rules experts now. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, with Damon in mind here, I guess we'll kick it to his former teammate, bubble teammate, in a playoff series against the Los Angeles Lakers. He now is a Los Angeles Laker, very valued member. Your friend, now the show's friend, Wenyen Gabriel. Disclaimer: I will not be able to be on the interview. Very saddened by that. I'm sure you guys are bummed out, but Swatter will hold down the fort here. It'll probably be better because I'm not on. So
Never that, Patty. Best co-host in podcasting.
yeah, exactly. Coming at me, Tommy Alter, all those guys. But yeah, Swatter, you want to close it out here?
Yeah, obviously, really excited to get Wendy on the podcast. He has a great story, unbelievable story of not only his career on the court, but his impact in South Sudan, his home country, and everything like that. So we'll get into all those things in this interview with Wenyen, and super excited for you guys to hear. Follow us on all platforms at Swider Show. I know Patty has a great spot at the end of all of our shows and telling you what to do.
Nice little music in the background, but yeah, we can never say it enough.
Just reiterating, just follow us on all platforms and email us your questions. Super grateful for you guys listening, and we're gonna kick it over to Wenyen.